In 1535, the Anabaptist-controlled city of Münster was defeated after a lengthy siege. The event became widely associated with religious extremism, and many rulers in Europe responded by intensifying their suppression of all Anabaptist groups, regardless of whether they had supported the rebellion. Despite this, Anabaptist communities did not disappear. Instead, many dispersed across Central Europe. Among the people affected by this displacement were followers of Jakob Hutter, who would eventually form the foundation of what are now known as Hutterite communities. This video examines what happened to Anabaptists after Münster, why Moravia became a key refuge, and how a communally organized society emerged and survived into the modern world. After the fall of Münster, both Catholic and Protestant authorities treated Anabaptism as a potential source of instability. Various territories issued decrees calling for arrest, exile, or execution of anyone practicing adult baptism. Most Anabaptists had no connection to the Münster Rebellion, but the association was widespread. As a result, many communities relocated frequently. This period is now described by historians as the Anabaptist Diaspora, characterized by migrations from German and Austrian territories towards areas where local rulers offered more tolerance or simply lacked the resources to enforce strict religious policies. Jakob Hutter was born around 1500 in what is now South Tyrol. By the late 1520s, he had joined Anabaptist circles that emphasized adult baptism, communal decision-making, and separation from state authority. Hutter did not advocate armed resistance. His role was primarily organizational, coordinating refugees, facilitating communication, and helping groups relocate when persecution intensified. By the mid-1530s, Hutter was directing groups of displaced Anabaptists towards Moravia, which at the time had a reputation for comparatively tolerant local lords. Moravia, part of the Bohemian crown lands, contained numerous semi-autonomous estates. Several nobles in the region permitted Anabaptists to settle, often because they valued their agricultural skills and work ethic. These settlements were not unified at first. Refugees arrived from Tyrol, Austria, and southern Germany with different interpretations of Anabaptist teachings. Leadership disputes and variations in practice were common. Jakob Hutter attempted to bring consistency by insisting on shared governance, mutual aid, and strict communal norms. Over time, these ideas became associated with his name. By the late 1530s, several Moravian Anabaptist groups adopted a system of communal living, where property was held collectively. This principle had been practiced earlier by some Swiss and South German Anabaptists, but the Hutterite communities implemented it more systematically. Key features included communal property. Members contributed possessions to the community. Goods, housing, and livestock were shared. Organized labor. Work was assigned based on ability and community needs. Many settlements operated workshops for pottery, textiles, metalwork, and printing. Education and healthcare. Records indicate emphasis on literacy, childcare, and medical care within the community framework. Leadership structure. Elders, ministers, and deacons managed daily affairs. Hutter served as an elder until his arrest in 1536. This system was referred to as the Bruderhof, a term still used today for Hutterite communal residences. In late 1535, Jakob Hutter traveled from Moravia back into Tyrol to assist Anabaptists experiencing increased pressure from authorities. During this journey, he was arrested near Klausen and transported to Innsbruck for interrogation. Habsburg judicial records describe multiple interrogation sessions aimed at identifying other Anabaptist leaders and uncovering the internal structure of Moravian communities. As was customary in the legal procedures of the period, torture was used during questioning. Hutter did not provide information that authorities considered actionable. After several weeks, he was sentenced to execution. On February 25, 1536, Jakob Hutter was executed by burning in Innsbruck. His death was intended as a deterrent to further Anabaptist activity in the region. Written accounts of his leadership continued to circulate among Moravian communities, contributing to later Hutterite identity. Although Moravia had temporarily tolerated Anabaptist groups, Habsburg authority eventually reasserted itself. Between the 1540s and early 1600s, Anabaptists, including Hutterites, were subject to waves of expulsion, imprisonment, or forced conversion. Communities repeatedly migrated between estates or across borders. Despite this instability, communal structures enabled the groups to rebuild relatively quickly after displacement. Major relocations occurred throughout the 17th and 18th centuries, from Moravia to Slovakia and Transylvania, later into parts of the Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth, then to Russia under Catherine the Great, who offered land and exemption from military service. In the 1870s, changes in Russian policy, especially compulsory conscription, led Hutterite groups to migrate again, this time to North America. They settled primarily in the United States, especially in the Dakota and Montana region, and Canada in the provinces of Manitoba, Alberta, and Saskatchewan. Their communal lifestyle continued with relatively few modifications. Today's modern Hutterite colonies maintain communal property, structured leadership, emphasis on agriculture, a strong internal education, and religious services in the dialect of German. They represent one of the longest continuous communal societies in the world. Their origins trace directly back to the migrations triggered by the aftermath of Münster and the organizational work of Jakob Hutter in Moravia. Although Anabaptist groups were numerically small, several of their core principles influenced broader political and social developments in the early modern and modern world. These influences occurred not through political activism, but through the long-term transmission of ideas about religious freedom, communal life, and nonviolence. Early Anabaptists insisted that religious belief must be voluntary, and that the state should not enforce religious conformity. These ideas circulated widely through printed writings and later influenced debates in early colonial America. Figures such as Roger Williams, founder of Rhode Island, were directly exposed to Anabaptist ideas on liberty of conscience and cited them in arguments for separating church and state. Historians often view these principles as early contributions to the tradition of religious liberty in the Atlantic world. The Hutterite system of shared property has attracted interest from 19th century utopian and communal theorists, sociologists studying alternative economic structures, modern Christian communal groups such as the Bruderhof. While Hutterites did not design their communities as political models, their long-term stability provides a reference point for research on collective economic organization. Anabaptist teachings on nonviolence significantly influenced legal recognition of conscientious objection. During World War I, World War II, and the Vietnam era, Anabaptist groups, particularly Mennonites, Hutterites, and the Amish, became central to legal discussions surrounding alternative service. Their consistent stance contributed to the modern understanding of conscientious objection as a protected expression of belief. Although Hutterites themselves avoid political engagement, other Anabaptist-related groups have developed major humanitarian programs. The Mennonite Central Committee, otherwise known as the MCC, founded in 1920, has worked in refugee resettlement, international development, peace building in conflict regions, and disaster relief. Their efforts apply long-standing Anabaptist principles of community responsibility and nonviolence to global issues. The fall of Münster reshaped Anabaptism across Europe. Many groups emphasize nonviolence and communal discipline to distance themselves from any association with rebellion. The Hutterite movement, shaped in Moravia during the 1530s, became one of the most structured expressions of these principles. Through centuries of migration, pressure, and adaptation, Hutterite communities maintained a distinct identity. Their survival reflects how a religious minority reorganized itself after one of the most controversial events of the Reformation era. Thank you for taking the time to learn this chapter of history with me. If you'd like to explore more topics like this, you're welcome to subscribe and stick around for future videos.